It's around this time of the Rainbow Six season cycle that people start to get a little bit hagglish about the guns that are set to be in the next season. By this time I'm referring to the middle of Shifting Tides, so it'll probably be at least 2 seasons before this video ever reaches YouTube. Believe it or not, I have around 5-6 videos sitting around in script form, waiting to be made, but with my work cycle it usually takes about infinity years for me to get shit done. Enough about my failure to be productive, and on to the topic of today's video, which I know will be a controversial one. I hope that I can get both sides of the argument to compromise on this, because holy fuck, some of you guys go apeshit whenever this topic is mentioned, usually from the side of adding new guns. To briefly summarize, here's the message of the video. You saying bulked. Ubisoft should add new guns, but oh lord, calm down. There, summary. I want to preface this video by saying that I understand where both sides come from, as I've found myself on both sides of the argument since the inception of reused guns in Operation Phantom Sight. I'll assume that since you're watching this video, you're familiar with the issue at hand, reused guns in Rainbow Six Siege. But if you just picked up the game or for some reason you're unfamiliar with the issue, here's a quick rundown. In Operation Phantom Sight, it was revealed, or discovered, I can't really remember which, that there would be no new and unique guns added to the game for the new operators. Suffice it to say that the community exploded with the force of an atomic bomb over this detail, with metric flow of people complaining that they were deprived of their rights to have unique guns added every season. A large but not quite as vocal minority countered by saying that Ubisoft was doing right by their promise of fixing the core issues plaguing the game at the time, like cheaters, latency, game-breaking bugs. With that recap out of the way, let's explore the issue. The main argument that seems to be pushed by the pro-content side is that Ubisoft set a precedent with the previous 3.25 years of releasing new firearms every season that they are obliged to keep up with. They posit that new and fresh content every season is what keeps this game interesting. The lack of new guns to learn and experiment with each season causes them to lose interest in the game. A more fringe argument that falls under the pro-content side is the I paid for the season pass and I didn't get what I was promised. Going into year 5, I think that this really isn't a great argument, as most people probably expect at this point that Ubisoft is going to keep up their trend and recycle guns. So expecting new guns to come out every season really just isn't realistic going into year 5. We paid $30 for an expectation of 1 map and 3 reworks, 8 operators, and 16-ish new guns, 4 secondaries plus 1 or 2 primaries per operator. And Ubisoft not delivering on a third of that promise frankly felt like some of the season pass funds had gone to waste for some people. While I personally don't buy into this argument very much, I totally understand why some people who purchase the season pass do. The opposition to the pro-content side was much less centralized around an argument than the pro-content side was, and in most cases could be boiled down to people who simply said, "Stop getting so angry, Ubisoft is made up of human individuals who sometimes fail to deliver on promises just like the rest of us." They took a more sympathetic approach, and while the lack of guns was surely missed, they made a point of not hassling Ubisoft over it. At the onset of the controversy, I was very much aligned with the pro-Ubisoft side of the argument. I believed that it wasn't a very big deal. I said to myself that we're still getting new ops and map rework, so I can't complain. But there was a bigger reason I was opposed to the pro-content side, something more rooted in my values as a gamer. One thing that I've always believed about video games is that it's not about the new content, and it's not about always having something new. For me, it's always about the core gameplay. I've spent 2,000 hours playing Rocket League, not because of the crates, not because of the seasonal cosmetics or battle pass, but because the game is fun at its core. I could go on playing Rocket League for the rest of my life, even if Psyonix stopped supporting it, because that game is fundamentally enjoyable at its core mechanics and premise, and I know that those aren't going away anytime soon. Rainbow Six Siege has the same value in my eyes. The core mechanics and gunplay are intriguing and reward mastery, and the base operators on their own can entertain me for years. Now I don't want to draw false equivalencies here. Rainbow Six and Rocket League are two very different games that require very different amounts and types of attention. I'm well aware that the content stream of operators and seasons was the only thing that kept Rainbow Six alive past launch and into the game it is today, and I'm fully supportive of Rainbow Six keeping up the seasonal content stream as a means of diversifying gameplay. What I'm not down with is the idea that guns equals engagement. If you ask me, what is engaging about the seasons is not the guns, not the maps, but the operators. I couldn't give a fuck about whether Outback existed or not, but I do enjoy having Gridlock's area denial utility. Maestro's All of the LMG is a unique and interesting reversal of traditional ideas about what types of guns the attackers and defenders have, but I can still enjoy Jaeger's 416C as a raw killing machine. The operators are the most important force that drives Rainbow Six's development and diversification of gameplay. If people want to stop playing the game over a missed Glock 18 or iconic landmark, then they are missing the true value of the game. It will never get the full experience of what this game has to offer. This belief was what tied me down to the pro-Ubisoft side since Phantom Sight, but after reflecting on the implications of reusing guns for however many years Rainbow Six will manage to last, I've changed my outlook on the issue for one simple reason: balance. The reality is that reusing guns puts Ubisoft into a pickle. A hypothetical example of this is that Ubisoft may reintroduce the LED-5 for the next attacking operator, but then discover that the operator's gadget needs more firepower to back it up. If Ubisoft is put into a situation where the only good option is to buff or nerf a recycled gun, they would then affect the place of all the other operators with that gun in Siege. I personally think that buffing the L85 would be disastrous. Sledge and Thatcher already have amazing kits, Sledge with his frags and SMG-11, Thatcher with his undeniably essential utility and claymores. These guys don't need their deliberately average gun to be buffed. The L85 was deliberately designed to ensure that these two high utility operators don't also have a high firepower, because that would be overpowered. Adding a new underpowered operator that requires an L85 buff would disrupt this very deliberate design choice and make Sledge and Thatcher overpowered. There are infinite hypotheticals like this. Giving an MP7 to a weak operator that requires an MP7 buff would make Bandit oppressive. Giving the FO12 to a weak operator would require it to be put back in its pre-nerf broken state. I could list on and on for every gun, but I think that you get the point. Ubisoft contaminates their weapons ecosystem when they reuse guns, especially when the reusal occurs on a different side than when it was originally designed for. How are you supposed to balance a gun for both attack and defense, other than stripping of its ACOG on defense? If Ubisoft continues to reuse guns but add new operators, we'll probably get to the point where we have some weapons that are in the hands of 3 or even 4 operators, and how the hell is Ubi supposed to balance that? I think you get the point by now. Rainbow Six Siege has a delicate weapon ecosystem, and reusing guns has the potential to destroy that balance that Ubisoft has worked hard for 4 years to preserve. The other important balance consideration with reusing guns is the sound profiles of the operators in Rainbow Six Siege. Before the inception of reused guns, I could always determine who and where people were based on the sound of their shots, with a few exceptions. But with Wilmai and his AUG, anytime he fires that thing near me and I'm on defense, my mind goes, IQ nearby, get ready for a fight. The same thing goes for Smoke and Nook. The FMG9 is firmly implanted in my mind as a defender gun, and its use in Nook's kit has caused me many a heart attack. Now that's not to say that players can't adjust to these changes. I've been able to slowly adapt to the changing sound profiles of Siege, but I think that it's generally important to maintain consistent sound profiles in attack on defense, Siege being a game where consistent audio is crucially important. I think that these issues would be less prevalent if Ubisoft had straight up told the community that this was their plan and they knew they had done this for one reason or the other. That would let the player base know that Ubisoft is aware of the potential effects of these balance changes, and that they hopefully have some sort of plan in place to counteract these negative effects. If Ubisoft was genuinely just lazy in their design though, that worries me for the direction of Year 5. The most important thing though, in all of this, is that we treat Ubisoft decently in this situation. While the blame certainly lies on them for failing to deliver on a content promise, it's not the end of the world. I hope that by now you accept my premise and agree that Ubisoft should, for the health and longevity of the game, keep introducing new weapons with each operator, in order to avoid designing themselves into a balancing corner. As a brief postword, after I wrote this video, the infamous Year 5 operator leak happened, where it was revealed that we would only be getting 6 Year 5 operators. To me, this has 2 potential meanings, one good and one bad. The potential good that can come out of this is that they have less operators that they have to design for, and they can spend more time designing new guns. Also, if we're only getting 6 new ops this year, then we may see Operation Health 2, which I am totally for. The potential negative that could come from this is that Ubisoft is simply dialing back their content stream. I'd be a hypocrite if I said that removing the quarterly season content was an entirely bad thing, but I do enjoy at least having new ops to learn every now and then. Like before, I think the leak has both good and bad implications, and with the new creative directors in inarguably high stakes for Rainbow Six this year, being the halfway point to their 10-year goal and their biggest year in pro play, all we can do is wait and see what becomes of Siege. See ya.
You're actually insane.
I tagged him in the shoulder too, fuck my life.